My alpha husband misstepped on the stairs and fell, and now he's lost his memory. Fresh out of college for only a few years, forced into marrying an unfamiliar male beta who's older and past his prime, and now on top of that, amnesia. My poor little husband really has it rough. I braced myself on the edge of the bed and slowly sat up. After steadying my breathing, I lowered my eyes for a moment. Loose strands of hair clung to my temples, cool against my cheeks. I raised a hand and pulled my robe together a bit. After tidying myself up, still half-dazed with sleepiness, I headed to the hospital. The moment I stepped into the hospital room, the alpha frowned and shot me a look, snapping impatiently. I already said I'm fine. Don't come in here and bother. He cut himself off, his voice weakening halfway through. This was the first time I'd ever seen him lose his temper. I smiled gently, keeping my tone mild. Sorry. I stayed by the doorway, instead of going in to annoy him further. I gave him a quick once-over, no broken arms or legs, and he looked alert enough. It didn't seem serious. Cough, cough. A chill drifted in from the hallway. I had just lifted a hand to pull my collar tighter when an itch rose in my throat. I let out a couple of muffled coughs, the tail end trembling faintly with weakness, my shoulders swaying slightly with it. Come in, Dawson said stiffly. I answered softly, paused to catch my breath, then walked in and sat on the chair beside the hospital bed. Dawson asked, "What's your name?" The corner of my lips curved up. "Brooks." I slowly explained the situation to him. Dawson's gaze wandered all over the place, one hand pressed firmly to his chest the whole time. "Does your heart hurt?" I leaned in, worried. He shook his head hard, his nostrils flared, and his expression suddenly changed. "Are you wearing orange-scented perfume?" he asked. I shook my head, then realized it. It's probably alpha pheromones. Dawson's pheromones smell like sweet oranges. As a beta, I can't really sense them, so he must have picked it up at home. I instinctively tilted my head as if to sniff, but Dawson reached out and turned my face back to center. "Why are married?" His expression darkened. I didn't see what the issue was and simply nodded. "Where are we exactly?" he asked hesitantly. I quietly stifled a yawn and thought about it. He had amnesia now, and waking up to find himself married to a male beta 8 years older than him was probably a huge shock. I put it gently. We signed an agreement. We're polite, keep our distance, and don't interfere with each other, so you don't need to be scared. I'm not going to do anything to you. Dawson's hand trembled slightly. His eyes went unfocused, like an eggplant hit by frost. Strange. Even when we got married back then, he hadn't reacted this strongly, and I'd never heard of him having some unforgettable first love either. "Would you get a divorce?" Dawson asked. I blinked slowly and smiled faintly. "If that's what you need," his expression eased. "A little." Testing the waters, he added, "I'm younger and better looking." I looked at him with amusement and hummed in response, an alpha competing with me. A beta. Honestly, he really is a kid. Dawson brightened up immediately. After the alpha was discharged, he came home with me. I opened the door and glanced back, only to see Dawson scowling. "You're really just bringing me back here like this?" he said. "Then how else? Was I supposed to sneak into my own home?" His expression was conflicted, half secretly pleased, half disgusted. "I don't want to live here. It reeks of alpha pheromones. It's disgusting." A question mark practically popped up over my head. How is reeks of alpha pheromones? It's disgusting. A question mark practically popped up over my head. How is he in his own pheromones? Since he was still a patient, I agreed. We moved to a more secluded place. It wasn't as big as the main house, but it was comfortable enough. In the car, while waiting at a red light, drowsiness crept up on me. I stared blankly out the window at the passing scenery. Just sitting in the car a bit longer was enough to tire out this useless body of mine. Dawson carefully squeezed in closer beside me. When the seat dipped slightly, my lashes fluttered, but I didn't react. "Do you like blonde hair?" he suddenly asked. That finally pulled my focus back. Outside the window, there was a boy with bright blonde hair, catching under the sunlight. I lazily answered with a quiet, "Got it," he replied, but I no longer had the energy to pay attention to him. Sleepiness wrapped around my thoughts, dragging my consciousness down into a heavy haze. When I opened my eyes again, it was already deep into the night. I got out of bed to get some water. As I pushed my door open, the door to the next room opened too. Dawson walked over, covered my eyes with his hand, and turned on the hallway light. My lashes fluttered. Once my eyes adjusted, he let go. I looked up and met a head of golden hair, warm yellow light spilling over his hair and shoulders. My lips parted slightly. He lowered his head, letting me look at him more closely, and asked softly, not good looking, "It looks good." I was dazed for a moment. Before the amnesia, Dawson had been young, but always acted mature, black hair, suit perfectly neat. The blonde hair suited him surprisingly well, making him look brighter, more youthful. "You don't like it?" he asked. Quietly, "As long as you like it. It's good for kids to try new things. You don't like it. I like it. Then why won't you touch me?" I couldn't help reaching out to run my fingers through his warm, soft hair. After a moment, his breathing grew heavier. I hesitated and withdrew my hand. My cool fingers brushed his neck, which felt hot to the touch. I lowered my eyes, then turned my head aside and sighed. He really was a young alpha, full of restless energy. My body had never been very responsive when it came to desire. "I'll go get some water," I said, trying to give him space so I could retreat to my room and deal with myself. He grabbed my wrist and guided my hand to his face. His expression stayed controlled, but his neck was flushed, veins standing out clearly. "Won't you kiss me?" Dawson asked bluntly. "Won't you comfort me a little?" My fingers curled slightly. I was at a loss. This was too intimate. The heat rolling off him was impossible to ignore. Dawson straightened and pulled me into his arms. I went stiff, not daring to move. He rubbed hard against the hollow of my neck and let out a low chuckle. "Brooks, you're covered in my scent now." I blurted out, "Orange." He froze, then released me. "Who do you think I am?" He ground his teeth, clearly annoyed. "My scent is mandarin." "Mandarin, not orange." I stood there blankly for a moment before it clicked. The doctor had mentioned his pheromones were temporarily altered. So that was it. I lifted my hand and lightly touched the furrow between his brows, amused. "No one else, just you." That's such a perfunctory answer. Even so, his tones softened. "Go back to your room. I'll get you some water." He turned and went downstairs. I returned to my room and got back into bed. He brought the glass to my lips. I reached out to take it, but he dodged my hand, left with no choice. I sipped a few mouthfuls from his hand. Afterward, he set the glass on the bedside table, still looking wide awake. "I'm fine now. You should go back to your room," I said. "You're chasing me away." He raised his voice slightly, pouting. I yawned, forcing my eyes open. "No, I'm just sleepy." "Then sleep. Once you fall asleep, I'll leave." He pulled a chair over and sat beside the bed, watching me. The bedroom lights dimmed. I had no way out. I avoided his gaze and burrowed under the blanket. After a while, Dawson called softly, "Brooks." I didn't respond. He called again a few times, then went quiet. Half asleep, something warm pressed against my lips. I instinctively parted them. A soft, damp warmth slipped and warm pressed against my lips. I instinctively parted them. A soft, damp warmth slipped in, sucking until my lips felt sore. I let out a muffled sound. Dawson immediately pulled away. When he realized I hadn't opened my eyes, he leaned in again. I thought he was going to kiss me once more and was about to open my eyes to teach him a lesson when I heard him complain in a small, wounded voice. "Did you think I was him? I clearly smell like mandarin and orange. That's similar. Or am I just a substitute? And you only come to me when he's too busy." What on earth was he talking about? My mind was a mess. Dawson pressed his forehead to mine and spoke hoarsely. "If it's meant to be mine, it'll come to me, and if it's not, I'll take it anyway." After declaring that baffling statement, he left the room. I opened my eyes. They were hazy. I touched my slightly swollen, overheated lips, feeling troubled, and let out a quiet sigh. Polite distance, no interference, seemed to have shattered. Young alphas really don't know restraint. When he remembers everything, he won't come after me for this, will he? I turned over and fell asleep again. After the amnesia, Dawson seemed to have far too much energy. He clung to me all day. When I woke up, he wanted kisses. When I slept, he wanted to hold me. The moment I refused, he'd lower his eyes and look like he was about to cry. "Dawson, I want to sleep," I murmured softly. His arm was wrapped around my waist, his chest pressed to my back, warm and comforting, making me even sleepier. Hearing that, he leaned over and kissed my cheek, frowning. "You just woke up not long ago. Why are you sleepy again?" Are you sick? I didn't bother resisting. I just like sleeping. My weak health was part of it, too. Then let's watch another movie. He coaxed gently. After that, we'll have lunch, then take a nap. How about that animated movie you seemed interested in last time? A faint blush crept onto my face. Last time, I'd only lingered on it for a second longer, and he'd noticed being in my 30s and getting caught liking animated movies in front of young Alpha was a bit embarrassing. I showed a hint of awkwardness. But Dawson acted completely natural. He queued up the movie and even went to prepare a fruit plate. Apple slices, shaped like little rabbits, strawberries cut into hearts, dragon fruit scooped into neat balls. Once everything was ready, he hugged me again and took a deep breath against me. I didn't even have pheromones. I had no idea what he thought he was smelling. His hair brushed the back of my neck, ticklish enough to make me laugh, easing my embarrassment. Watching a movie I liked, I found myself zoning out. Even though the current Dawson was completely different from the one before the amnesia, this part hadn't changed. Before, he'd also bring me all sorts of things, always trying to catch my attention, trying to keep me awake. Brooks? I snapped back to attention and saw that Dawson's expression had darkened, looking a little like his old self. Brooks is smiling so happily. Who were you thinking about? He pressed his lips together. You. I answered honestly, my ears quietly turning red. His mood flipped instantly. He perked up and pecked my cheeks several times like a woodpecker. I actually made Brooks smile. That deserves a few reward kisses, he said proudly. Ridiculous logic. I smiled too. After lunch, I yawned. I hadn't done much, but I still felt exhausted. By the time he finished cleaning up, I was already lying on the couch with my eyes half closed. He chuckled softly, crouched in front of the couch, and asked in an almost whisper, "Sleepy again?" I replied vaguely. Did lunch suit your taste? Can I carry you to the bed to sleep? He paused, then asked deliberately, then do you like me? I answered without thinking. A second later, my mind caught up, struggling to regain some clarity. He laughed in satisfaction and reached out to lift me. I like you, I added softly. He froze. When there was no response for a while, my eyelids were still drooping. Then I heard a very quiet sob. My chest tightened. I opened my eyes and saw that his smile hadn't faded, but tears were overflowing, silently soaking into his sleeve. I propped myself up. Why are you crying? He looked dazed. I don't know. I'm really happy, but I really want to cry. Even his pretty blonde hair looked dull and messy now. I rubbed his head, pressed my forehead to his, and asked gently, "Do you want to take a nap with me?" He wiped his tears clumsily and answered in a muffled voice. I'm afraid that wasn't clear enough. He added, "Together." I laughed. All right, go wash your face. I'll wait for you in the bedroom. I was woken up in the afternoon by Dawson. A head kept nuzzling and sniffing at the hollow of my neck and chest. It was impossible not to wake up. My voice was hoarse. What time is it? 3 o'clock. You can't sleep anymore. If you do, it'll mess up your sleep tonight. He said. My body still felt heavy and tired. I wasn't satisfied at all. But Dawson looked full of energy. Can I kiss you? He planted a kiss on my left cheek. Can I kiss you? He kissed my right cheek too. My eyes curved with amusement. Haven't you already kissed me? It's different. I want this kind of kiss. He lightly brushed my lips, lingering just a little. Is that okay? What if it's not? I asked, a bit curious. Dawson let out a soft chuckle and didn't answer. Instead, his gentle kisses trailed down my neck, brushing past my throat and moving lower. Every alarm bell in my head went off. The drowsiness vanished completely, and I pushed him away hard. Caught off guard, he fell back to sit on the bed. We looked at each other. I was the first to avert my gaze. I tugged at my rumpled collar and spoke awkwardly. Get up. Why not? He frowned slightly. No means no. He hadn't recovered his memories yet. Doing anything like that now would feel like taking advantage. Thinking that, I quietly checked my conscience. Is it because of that awful mandarin smell? His voice trembled at the end. Didn't really understand why he disliked himself so much, but I still nodded. Why, his expression twisted. I sighed and smiled gently. Tried to soothe him, half joking, because you're my husband. He completely broke down. His face went pale. Without a word, he got out of bed, sniffed once, and walked away. I watched his heavy steps, confused. What was going on? A young alpha's thoughts really are hard to read. He didn't come out of his room, even when it was time for dinner. The specialists say you should give kids their own space to process their emotions, but this felt like a bit much. I hesitated in front of his door for a long time before finally knocking softly. Dawson, and a muffled sound made my hand jerk. I opened the door. Dawson was right there, just a door had separated us. He was half kneeling on the floor. The skin at his collarbone was flushed and unhealthy red. Clothes were scattered messily from the bed all the way to his knees, wrinkled and tangled. Damp hair clung to his forehead with cold sweat. Every breath he took carried an intense heat, making the air feel thick and warm. Betas can't smell pheromones, but at that moment, I felt as if something overwhelming was pouring out of the room, wrapping around me from all sides. His eyes were faintly red, his state a complete mess. I hurriedly looked away, then realized the clothes on the bed and floor looked very familiar. The clothes, I hesitated. They're yours, he said bluntly. He grabbed a shirt and breathed it in. Brooks's smells so good. My scalp tingled. I instinctively took a few steps back. I didn't know when his sensitive period usually was. He had always kept a careful, polite distance from me. Every meeting had been like that. This was the first time I had ever faced him like this, I thought back. Carefully, every month there really were a few days when clothes disappeared unusually fast from the laundry basket. I had assumed the housekeeper was just being diligent. I'm a beta. I reminded him, betas don't have pheromones. It's not pheromones, it's Brooks's scent. He pressed his face to the collar of the shirt. It smells so good. I forced myself to stay calm. Don't panic. Nesting behavior during an alpha-sensitive period is normal. I cautiously tugged at the shirt in his hand, coaxing. Gently, how about I get you a clean one? He was clearly not thinking straight. He murmured, I can't use clean clothes. Brooks will notice something's wrong. Before I could respond, he continued, Brooks likes being neat. He changes clothes every day. What if I take something he planned to wear tomorrow? I don't want to see Brooks frown. I want to see Brooks smile. That's something I promised. I placed the food at his door, then went to wash up and get ready for bed. Steam filled the bathroom. I stared at the clothes I had just taken off, lost in thought. Should I give them to Dawson? A drop of water slid from my hair and landed on the back of my hand, yanking my thoughts back. My lashes fluttered. My ears warmed. Was this going too far? I dried my hair and stepped out to take a look. The food was still there, untouched. It must be hard, so uncomfortable that he couldn't even eat. I went back in the bathroom, wrung the clothes casually, bundled them up, then walked to Dawson's door and opened it a crack. Dawson, did you want some clothes? I asked softly, heavy breathing pressed down from the other side. I want them. I opened the door a little wider and slipped my arm in, handing over the bundle ball. A burning hot hand suddenly grabbed my wrist. I forced myself to stay calm, clapping. A hand over my mouth to swallow the gasp. The pressure eased. The bundle was taken away, a damp warmth brushing across my palm. Thank you, Brooks, he said with a hoarse laugh. The heat retreated. I slowly pulled my arm back. The Alpha closed the door on his own. I was wide awake after that. I felt like I had discovered something very serious. The next day, I went back to my family home. Father, can I ask something? I said, why was Dawson on the marriage list back then? It wasn't that I looked down on him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen him. His situation just stood out too much. A rejected, illegitimate son who refused to return home, an ambitious young talent, an Alpha far too young, sticking out among a group of steady, polished heirs. My father smiled. I thought you'd never ask. Looks like you do care about him after all. He had someone bring me a cup of warm milk and began to reminisce. He came to me himself and asked for a chance. At the time, plenty of Alphas came to visit me, but Dawson was different. He came alone. His gifts were medicinal herbs, jewelry, and flowers. Then he laid all his information out in front of me. May I take the flower home? He said. I promise him freedom, money, love, everything I have. My father mimicked Dawson's tone, so seriously it made my teeth ache. I told him I couldn't make the decision. He nodded as if it were only natural and said, I only hope you'll give me a chance to be seen by him. I asked if he had anything else to add. He said no. He was sincere, didn't waste words, stood up, and bowed to me. My father laughed heartily. Who knew the kid would actually succeed? My face grew hot. I lifted a hand to touch my cheek and realized I was smiling. The truth was, I had seen Dawson before. My health was poor, so I didn't attend many events, but whenever I did, he was always there. Once when my hands got dirty, he even had someone pass me a handkerchief, so when I saw his name on the marriage list, I had been surprised. I thought this ambitious man simply needed funding, and I accepted it as returning a favor. I hadn't expected this. Dawson seemed to like me. The sunset slowly faded from fiery red into a gentle orange glow. I sat in the back seat of the car, a bouquet of bright red roses beside me. I was the older one. I should be the one to lift the veil. What kind of reaction would Dawson have? I smiled as I thought about it. While I walked through the front door, Dawson was waiting at the entrance. The young Alpha glanced at the roses in my arms and immediately looked pitiful, on the verge of tears. When are you going to divorce him? Isn't having me enough? My hand froze mid-offer, confused. I was completely lost. What divorce? Dawson stared at me in disbelief. Didn't you say that if I needed it, you'd get a divorce? My heart skipped a beat. I asked with difficulty, do you want a divorce? Had I misunderstood everything? Did he not like me at all? He choked up. I don't want to share you with anyone. I don't want to keep following you like this without a name or status. What was he even saying? I finally realized how absurd it was. You thought. You were. The other man, he froze, trembling. I'm not even third place. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could there be that many? There's only you. I cupped his face, tilted my head up, and kissed the corner of his mouth, smiling through my eyes. Husband, he stood there like a wooden post. I really have a place. You weren't lying to me. He sounded small and wronged. The more I thought about it, the funnier it became. The marriage certificate is in the bedside drawer. Go see for yourself. He didn't even wipe his tears. He shot off like a rocket, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Slow down, watch the... I didn't finish the sentence. His foot slipped, and he tumbled all the way down to the first floor. Dawson, I shouted in terror. He looked dazed, mumbling the marriage certificate. Idiot, brat, stupid Alpha. Why worry about that now? Late at night, Dawson almost jolted upright from the hospital bed. His voice was low and tense as he asked the caregiver, "Where's Brooks?" Was he frightened? I was on the bed next to his, separated only by a curtain. He was injured, and my mind had been restless, so I'd been sleeping lightly. I woke almost at once. Hearing that, my hand paused and withdrew from the curtain. Brooks is sleeping on the next bed, the caregiver replied softly. Dawson fell silent immediately. I heard him carefully get out of bed and step around the curtain. Brooks is sleeping on the next bed, the caregiver replied softly. Dawson fell silent immediately. I heard him carefully get out of bed and step around the curtain. His breathing drew closer. He brushed my bangs aside. Usually he would kiss my forehead then, but this time it didn't come. Instead, a cool hand was wrapped in warmth. Dawson murmured in frustration, "I scared you. It's all my fault." I quietly opened my eyes and saw him rub his face against my palm as if it were something precious, his eyes shimmering. "Am I your husband or your lover?" I asked suddenly. He froze. The light in his eyes wavered. And then his whole face heated up. The caregiver discreetly stepped away, forcing himself to sound stern. He said, "We're legally married." I'd seen how fierce and possessive he could be. That serious mask had long since lost its effect. "Oh, right," I said calmly. "Mutual respect, no interference." His lips pressed together until they turned pale. He didn't say a word. It felt like he was about to cry. "Do you remember what happened when you lost your memory?" He nodded. "The roses, too." He frowned, but still nodded. "Who gave them?" "You did, you did." "We spoke at the same time." He went blank. I smiled and reached up to rub his hair. Black roots had already grown in. Thankfully, he was tall, or it would have been obvious. He started crying again. I hadn't realized he was such a crier. "Why are you crying again?" He tried to cover it up. I hit my head. It still hurts a bit. I leaned in and kissed his forehead. He froze, then put on a stiff face and tentatively pointed at his cheek. My face might have gotten hit too. Another kiss landed on his cheek. He blinked and, in a cool tone that somehow sounded shameless, proceeded to list the rest of his face as if it were all injured. Laughter spread through my eyes. I pushed his face away. "That's enough." He lowered his head, smiling. I didn't understand. What had I done to make him this happy? "Why did you go to see my father?" I asked. He lowered his eyes, understanding, but answered sideways. "Thank you for choosing me. That's the happiest thing that's ever happened to me. An Alpha who wouldn't be honest at a moment like this. Shouldn't you be confessing?" I said helplessly, "I like you. Being married to you makes me feel happy." Someone looked like he was about to cry again. On the day he was discharged, we decided to take a short walk first. The driver followed at a distance. For the 10th time, His hand brushed against the back of mine. I sighed. Hearing that, his face tightened. "Brooks, do you really like me?" He sounded uneasy. What could make an ambitious man fall into self-doubt? "Yes," I replied. "You can ask me again and again, but no matter how many times you ask, the answer won't change." In a good mood, I took the hand that had been hesitating for so long. Does holding the hand of someone who's met the parents, is married, and has a stable relationship really make you that conflicted? He didn't answer. He simply intertwined our fingers. Soon the sky darkened, the air turned cool, and the wind picked up. Dawson all but forced me into the car. When it came to health, he had his own strict rules. "I kind of want cake," I said. "Want me to make it when we get back?" "Let's order delivery." I was enthusiastic, then realized I'd left my phone at the hospital. He handed me his phone. "Use mine, I'll have someone pick yours up later." Was this checking his phone? I'd heard friends talk about that. I took it, half joking, as the password my birthday. He paused. "Not that one. Not that one. This one is our wedding anniversary." He added, "This time." I was the one who froze. I calmly set the phone down. "Never mind. I think I want to eat the cake you make." The atmosphere went still. He sensed something was off and leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Brooks, then tell me, what do you think the password is?" I raised my hands and surrendered. "Dawson, I'm a little tired." He put up the divider. Warmth pressed close. I struggled to keep quiet. This time it was my fault. I should have given the Alpha a little compensation. I indulged him, and the young, inexperienced Alpha only grew more intense. Gradually, my breath hitched, a soft sound slipping out as I struggled to breathe evenly. He noticed and snapped back to himself, quickly pulling me into his arms, soothing me, his hand running over my trembling back. My pale lips had been warmed until they turned flushed. "Sorry," he said, brows drawn, looking a little fierce. When I chose him back then, there was also one reason. He was the best looking. "You know," I said, smiling between breaths, "every time you went to a banquet, the betas and omegas couldn't stop looking at you." "Were you looking at me too?" he asked seriously. Well, seeing how nervous he looked made me laugh. I'm not above it either. Overwhelmed by mutual affection, my reason completely slipped away. Only then did I remember to ask him. That night, I fought off my drowsiness. "Dawson, why do you like me?" I turned onto my side to face him. There had never been a shortage of people who liked me, some for money, some for appearances. Which one was he? Dawson turned as well, meeting my gaze, and began slowly. When my career was just starting, I finally managed to secure a chance to move upward. I got an invitation to a banquet. At the venue, I saw you. Everyone was looking at you, so I didn't stand out. This might sound dramatic, but the moment I saw you, my mind went completely blank. It was like a gentle flower had wandered into a busy, gray world. He tapped his nose lightly against mine. I kept looking at you. By the time the banquet ended, I realized I hadn't networked with a single person. Logically, I should have been annoyed. Such a rare opportunity wasted, but I didn't feel that way at all. All I could think was how lucky I was to have come. I kept wondering, how should I build a nest to bring that flower home? Would freedom, money, and love be enough? I listened in astonishment. "How old were you back then?" "I'm 8 years older than you." 8 years is nothing. He said casually, "Liking someone is liking someone, even if it goes against your own sense of reason. You still want to get closer." He curled his lips slightly. "But I wasn't capable enough back then. When news of your matchmaking came out, I wasn't ready. I struggled, sometimes thinking I wasn't qualified, sometimes unwilling to miss the chance. I was a mess. In the end, I could only rush to you and beg for an opportunity." I had thought he came for the money. No wonder Dawson had looked so cold and dark when I brought up the agreement. "Am I the same as you imagined?" I asked softly. "No," he answered. My heart tightened, until he continued, dead serious. "You're more beautiful, more vivid, gentler, and easier to love." I turned my back to hide my burning face. "You're just flattering me. Every word is true." He pulled me in his arms with a quiet sigh. "Brooks," the orange-scented warmth around him wrapped me completely. He always seemed to use citrus-scented products. Was it because I was a beta and couldn't smell pheromones? My heart began to race out of control. I had been utterly undone by a younger alpha. When I woke the next morning, the other side of the bed was already cold. I got up and went downstairs, only to discover a glass greenhouse had appeared in the yard. We'd been staying at another house recently, so I hadn't noticed the changes here. "Good morning." Dawson leaned over again. I pointed at the greenhouse. Wasn't that the doghouse? Yeah, you're allergic to dog hair, so I tore it down and built a greenhouse instead. That jogged my memory. I've been constantly sleepy, and a friend had given me a puppy. Dawson had agreed, and I'd been happy. He'd hoped the dog would keep me more alert. Instead, my allergies sent me to the hospital, and I'd lost a lot of weight in the chaos. Dawson immediately found the dog a good home and made sure it was well taken care of. "These are all flowers my father used to grow," Dawson said. "I know." I smiled as I looked over the familiar blooms. "Do you like them?" he asked. "Yes." I nodded, stood on my toes, and kissed the corner of his lips. "But I like you the most." My opinions and comments. Wow, watching Brooks and Dawson's story unfold is such an emotional ride. I love how their relationship isn't just romance. It's about trust, understanding, and those small, tender moments that show how deeply they care for each other. The way Dawson's youth and impulsive energy contrast with Brooks' patience and calm creates this beautiful, delicate tension, and seeing them navigate memory, desire, and devotion really pulls at your heart. It's a reminder that love can be messy, vulnerable, and incredibly real. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I hope you'll stay for more stories like this. Until next time, from all of us at Omegaverse Tale Studio, take care.